Good morning and welcome into another edition of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now. Had to give you that invigorated good morning to help you go about your day. And we here are a morning after some big news around the Pittsburgh sports scene, kind of a controversial Tuesday of sorts. And Tuesday normally a boring day out there, but nope, the Pittsburgh Steelers were in the news all through Tuesday after Steven Nelson opened up the morning with a little tweet saying he's sick of waiting around, didn't want to be jarred around, didn't want to be held hostage. That's literally what he put out there in the tweet with the word hostage. And then eventually 30 minutes later, they grant him his release. And that topic of conversation, of course, all through that day. We also will touch on some major news around the Pitt basketball scene with the question that had been pondered by many around Pitt of what will Justin Champagnie do has now been answered in terms of whether or not he will seek the NBA and that decision by him and our thoughts there. And then also even a player with West Virginia that has decided to at least put his feelers out to the NBA, and maybe even another one that right now has said he doesn't have a decision made, but I could see him playing overseas and potentially being off the team for next year as well. Mike Vukovcan, Mike Asti. This is Mic'd Up, of course, presented by Martin Lawn Services. Hit up Doug Martin at 412-849-5894. Mike, to get us underway here, it was a Steelers Tuesday around the Pittsburgh sports scene, around Pittsburgh sports talk, and it makes it easy for us to think of a topic here when a player like Steven Nelson, who we discussed for weeks, it appeared for a while he was going to be back. It appeared for a while he was going to be the starter for next year. Then it appeared that maybe he would be that player that would be moved, and they had mentioned they were willing to shop him the same day they announced re-signing Juju. That was controversial. And now it gets to Tuesday morning. He basically says, I'm sick of being jerked around. He wanted a decision made. And they could have dragged it out for several more months if they wanted to. I don't know if that forced the hand and they just said, okay, we'll do what you want and we're going to now bounce you because there wasn't a trade partner. I don't know why they made that decision. That's been speculated by many of us credentialed to cover the Steelers on whether it was part of the Juju thing, whether it was because there was an extension that Nelson wanted, the Steelers didn't want to give him, whether or not they were picking him, or they were picking Hayden over him, and that being a controversial decision. But at the end of the day, they have now released Steven Nelson, who is still relatively young, still relatively skilled, and that position certainly not one of depth now for the Steelers in terms of corners. Initially, what's your reaction to the wild Tuesday, the turn of events, and Nelson now being released by Pittsburgh?
Well, the first thing is my biggest take from this is it's very un-Steeler-like in the terms of
Sure.
They created this, I think, unnecessary soap opera with him.
Right.
Usually this happens with, the Jets or the Browns, or, people like that.
Or the player creates it, like Antonio Brown created it.
Yeah, exactly. They create, or somehow it got out that they were going to release him, which usually never happens until the minute it does.
Right.
And then it dragged on, which is what, pissed Steven Nelson off.
I get it.
Yeah, exactly. It just seemed, it doesn't add up to me. I said that yesterday. It feels as though there's something more to this than we're seeing right now. It's just a bizarre move. But the other thing I want to point out is, while I think it's definitely going to be a loss for the Steelers, I think people need to slow it as far as, this guy isn't Mel Blount. In 2 years, he had 3 interceptions.
Sure.
I know he was a good cornerback, but I think that's compared to what they've had in the past, which is obviously better. But, I'm not willing to go that this guy is some crucial loss that can't be replaced. He was a good player. He wasn't a great player. So if you're not a great player, I'm not that all hung up on you, But
I do think in terms of the stats, obviously they didn't get their money's worth from what they initially invested in Steven Nelson.
They paid him a lot of money.
Right. I do think, and it's hard to tell this, I guess. I do think he was better than what the stats say. Maybe it's just because on the Steelers he needed to be and he was in that position. But I do think he almost has become a little bit underrated. Last year, many thought he had a bad year. I certainly criticized him too for a while. But if you really dissect, I kind of can come around that he still made an impact because – and you look at the depth of this team as well. You're figuring Hayden being much older, even if we're wrong and he ends up on this team and we have egg on our face here at Steelers now, he's still an older player. He's going to, I almost guarantee, going to get hurt next year and not play a full season. Cam Sutton, yes, is back. Justin Lane, who has basically not played at all for 2 years, is now going to be forced into getting some PT, and he still had question marks around him when he was drafted. I think the issue is you have to also focus on yourself as a team. You can't overpay, of course, but he still was productive. And it is a ding to the Steelers because now if Hayden or Sutton or both would get hurt, they're playing almost entirely rookies, outrageous amount of playing time in that secondary position. And you could argue that outside of a quarterback, the next important position is cornerback, and that might be the weakest the Steelers have.
Yeah, but I also believe that we're at May or March 21st right now, and the season's going to start in September. So they're obviously going to add a player probably
March 24th. But yes,
yeah, two or 20 or whatever date it is.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of them.
They're going to add at least a couple cornerbacks to the roster before then, veteran guys, and not even counting
probably.
A rookie that they draft. The other thing that I wonder about, and I don't understand, is if they knew that they were going to get rid of Steven Nelson, which obviously they did.
Right.
Why not, and it goes back to the Juju thing again, why not invest in, you could have gotten Mike Hilton cheaper. You know what I mean?
I think, something that's being lost in this. Everybody focusing on you pick Juju over Steven Nelson. Right.
I think you could have gotten a Cam Sutton type deal, or somewhere a little bit above that, and you're not paying the Steven Nelson type numbers. And then you still have two quality cornerbacks, I believe, in Sutton, Hilton, and Hayden.
If Hilton's back, sure.
Yeah. I don't know. This whole thing, I don't think.
Or an offensive tackle. Or a center. I think that immaterial to Steven Nelson on the Juju conversation, there were greater needs. You could spend that money for Juju. Again, the cornerback position is a lack of depth. The receiver position is depth at a premium. And the center position and the tackle position and offensive line altogether, outside of Banner, who we haven't seen do it a full season, despite I love the guy, is incredibly lacking its depth, and you could have spent that money wisely elsewhere, even if you didn't go bring Hilton back. There were other players you could bring in that are more needs than receiver. Let me ask you this too, as we kind of round things out with this discussion that's just going to have legs. We could talk about it every single day.
Honestly, I don't think we're going to be able to get a proper – we're reacting to it today because it happened yesterday. Right. I don't think we're going to be able.
We're going to learn more, sure.
Yeah, I don't think we're able to properly address this subject until end of the summer, when everything plays out. They sign who they sign, they draft who they draft, and then we're going to look at the depth chart. Right now, it looks really bad for them, particularly defense. Now that they have lost 5 guys from that defense. A pretty good defense from, at least statistic-wise, from last season. That's 5 guys off the defense right now, but there's months left. Who knows what their plan is over there? I don't believe they're tanking it or trying to lose, maybe like other teams do. So I have to believe that I have faith in, just from past, just from their previous record, that Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert are going to do what they can do to bring in more talent.
Well, they're going to do some work for sure. And I know they're not tanking it. You could say what you want about whether or not they're going to win next year, but they're definitely going to try to do something. I will also say that it was weird, as you mentioned off the top, about how this was handled, because I will say one thing. Steve, even taking the high road after this whole drama, I don't know if you noticed this tweet to kind of end the day last night. Steven Nelson said he thanks for the memories. He appreciates the connections. Steelers organization's all class. Steven Nelson right now is looking like a victim of the Steelers bullying. Like, again, the Steelers did not release the report a week ago it was not the Steelers. It was Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, the lords of NFL Insider Game.
Yeah, but they got it from somebody
They
inside
had
the
to.
front office.
They had
Yeah.
to. So I think that makes the Steelers, and I do know for a fact, being around there for a while, the Steelers are a class personified organization. Everybody around there deserves the recognition they get. So I am sure the Steelers are embarrassed for how this is being handled. Kudos to Steven Nelson, I will say. Kudos to Steven Nelson. Many other athletes would not do this, for basically taking the high road. Even when it was originally reported a week ago, his tweet was not against the Steelers. He said, blessing in disguise. I'm looking forward to the future. And I think, honestly, he even said in his tweet Tuesday morning, I'm not trying to go public and be the bad guy, but I need my life put together, basically. Yeah. Tell me what's happening with me. So I think he just wanted this moved, and clearly they made a decision, or else they wouldn't have decided it so quick after the tweet. So I think they're realizing egg is on their face. I don't think the Steelers come off looking good here. I'm surprised they're not being criticized by the national shows a little bit, because why put that news out there or accidentally let it get out there a week ago? You get here, it's a little disrespectful to a veteran player the way this was handled, whether he was good, bad, or indifferent. They've treated worse players better. I'll put it to you that way.
Great. So that's a very good way to put it, Mike.
Yeah, so I don't get it, but nonetheless, the reality is he's off the team now. Who knows where he'll go, and his future's still young enough he can turn it around. The Steelers, though, do need to do a lot of work, to say the very, very least.
Yeah, and I can see from his perspective why he wants it to happen, because teams are only going to have so much money, and
if he didn't tweet, would he still be on this team? I don't know. I don't know. I think that triggered it.
Teams are spending money right now, and he wants to get paid. And if the Steelers don't cut him until later, chances are he's going to have teams are going to have less money in their cap to spend. So he's thinking, if I'm not going to be on the team, let me know now so that my agent and I can go find myself a deal in a situation where I can be a starter next season.
Yeah, and the only way to defend the Steelers a little bit, which I still don't think they handled it well, even if this is what happened, there have been some reports, and it's certainly counter. There are some that aren't sure about this being true, that there was a conversation between the Steelers and Steven Nelson months ago in which he basically said, I want more money on an extension, even though he doesn't have the gaudy stats to back it up. And they said no. And once they said no, he basically said, I want that, or I want to be gone. So there are some claiming that he basically told them, I want out, I'm just not going to go public. And then somehow that got leaked. The conspiracy theorists could say maybe Steven Nelson's camp leaked it to make the Steelers look bad and to eventually get us here. Again, we don't know if that's true at all, but as we stand now, the Steelers look bad unless that's reality, which I don't think the Steelers or Steven Nelson are going to let that come out, because right now it seems like they're trying to save face and cover things up. So we will see.
Yeah. The other big news of the day is basketball. There are only 16 teams left in the tournament. The waiver or the transfer portal is just completely insane with players.
To say the least.
750 players right now in there every day. There's hundreds of players that are just transferring. But Justin Champagnie, he made some news, Mike, right? He decided to declare himself for the draft without signing an agent. And that means that he's going to get a review from the NBA. They're going to advise him on where they see him going. I guess he can go to pre-draft workouts in Chicago.
Sure.
But, that's something that is not surprising, right?
No, not for me. And really, with the way the rules are right now, and this honestly holds true with even McNeil in West Virginia, and I would imagine Tad Sherman may do the same thing, even though he has probably more of a sights overseas, even though he's reportedly said now he doesn't know what decision he'll make. But certainly Champagnie, who's on a different level, he's a higher caliber player. He was argued for ACC Player of the Year midway through the season. Yes, Pitt season and his season declined a little bit, but why not test the waters? As long as you don't sign an agent, there's no reason not to test it. I'm not going to take money out of his pocket. If he needs the money and he wants second-round money, well, if he came back next year and played well and was the leader and star of the team, he might bump into the first round. If he wants to grab the cash, go ahead and do that. There's no real negative to test the waters, and it might even help him skill level to get those workouts in, have NBA scouts criticize him, tell him what they would think, whether whether it's behind closed doors. They all like each other. I'm sure if he does one of those, a scout may pull him aside or a GM may pull him aside and said, you need to fix this, this, and this. Come back next year. You'll be better off. He may read some tea leaves on where he will fall, etc. So there's no negative there. And he even said, didn't he even say something to the effect of just kind of testing it, I might return. That was the report as well. So the door's not shut. So I don't see what the negative of testing it right now is. I almost would question why not.
Oh yeah, there's no question. You do that just like Oscar did last year with West Virginia and decided to come back. I believe he was more of a legitimate guy that would carve himself a role. I think with Champagnie,
he's just not big enough. Is his size a problem?
Yeah, that's what I think. But the other thing I think the feedbacks can be very important to him, because I think what they can do with him is he might have a ceiling. They might tell him that no matter, your draft range is going to be here, somewhere in there. So, and even going back to school and working on your game,
change it.
Yeah. It might not change it that much. So if it's not going to change it that much, why come back?
Yeah, that could be true.
There's some guys that can, really work on something and improve their game and take it up another level. Maybe, I'm not saying, I don't think anyone in anything you ever do, you've hit a ceiling, but he can, maybe, I don't know.
No, I get it. Meaning basically what you're saying is even if you become a better player overall, you're only a certain size. The NBA is a certain way, has a certain style. Unless somehow or another you bulk up and gain 100 pounds of muscle or take some steroids, which are illegal, I don't see how that's going to change your positioning. Right. Very likely he's a sixth man ceiling spot up shooter outside. He probably won't be able to get the rebounds he's been getting in college in the NBA. Defensively will be a problem. So that will mean he won't be playing late in games that often. He'll probably be somebody that maybe could again hit the outside perimeter shot. Maybe they'll tell him work on that, because your ceiling is to be a bench player hitting outside perimeter shots like a Mike Miller. He may say, though, I disagree. I'm better. Mike Miller was never the star of his team. I'm the star of my team at a major conference. So I'm not saying that you want to quit and die, but I get what you're saying, that there is a reality that maybe he would hear. And you don't know if you come back and you get hurt. So if he hears that reality, he may say, I got to grab this money now. You mentioned Oscar Tshiebwe, who's transferred from WU midway through the season. He's going to be at Kentucky, which, of course, Coach Cal just pumps out NBA players. But as we stand now, if he would get hurt tomorrow, his draft stock sucks, because he went a whole year of barely playing, and then he basically was in the midst of a controversy, leaving his team. I don't think NBA scouts right now are too thrilled with him, and that's a lot of rust he has to shake off. So I'm assuming he'll get better with Coach Cal, but you are taking a risk coming back. So I get it.
He's a guy that you could see his.
He has the size. That's why he was there.
He has the size. He can be a guy that can be a big guy down low if he improves his offensive game, defensively and rebounding. I think he has roles in just the Kentucky brand and the spotlight.
It'll help him.
On him will no doubt help him. We'll see with Champagnie. I think it's a huge. It's going to be huge for Jeff Capel. There's no sugarcoating that. If Justin Champagnie comes back, and we'll see what Capel's able to add for the roster, because he has so many openings right now. But if he doesn't come back, it's going to be a rough year for Pitt. There's no, unless he surprisingly adds a couple big name transfers. If he comes back and he's able to add a couple transfers with some of the guys there and a full year of development with the team, the thing that I'm taking, just to segue into one thing, is for the people that think that Pitt can't make the tournament, or it's some, take some act of God for them to make it.
It's not that long ago when they're perennially in the tournament.
Yeah, but just look at some of the teams that are in the tournament right now and doing well. Loyola Chicago, and it can be done, but
is it easier for those mid-majors though, because they don't have to get through a gauntlet of a conference first? So that is fair to say.
Same with them having success there. There's no way that those players on the team compare ranking wise to the players on Kansas and Ohio State. But you play team ball. You have a good system. You have a good coach. You can advance. There's no reason why Pitt can't make some sort of damage in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
No way do I believe that.
And honestly, and this is again what Pitt fans are going to counter with probably that they're a little annoyed. This past season realistically could have been a tournament berth. They after that win over Duke, if they would have even maybe knocked off 3 or 4 more losses, it wasn't out of the question. They were playing for a chance at the tournament midway through this past year, so that's a positive step for the program where they were prior years. But some will say they missed out on an opportunity to get in the tournament. Who knows? Again, if Champagnie is there and they do any work recruiting wise, absolutely a chance at the tournament. If he is not there, they're probably having a similar or a step back season, I would imagine.
I'm going to have one. I'm going to close things out here with
Go
Pitt.
ahead.
With the Pitt thing is I saw a great tweet today. If you're a Pitt fan, if you're a glass half empty or half full guy, Leonard Hamilton's built something pretty solid down at Florida State. They're regarded as they were number one team in the country last season. They're still one of the top 16 or one of the 16 teams remaining. Before that, they made it to the tournament. Just keep in mind that I saw somebody from Florida State or a national guy tweet today that Leonard Hamilton didn't make the NCAA tournament at Florida State for the first 7 years of his career there. First 7 years of his career,
that's loyalty to him, though.
They let him build things up.
Yeah.
They didn't rush things, and now the fruits of the labor are paying off here, and they're one of the top 2 or 3 programs, 4 programs in the ACC. So I guess the moral of the story is some things when you're dealing with programs like Florida State, Pitt that aren't blue bloods that get the great players, sometimes it takes a little longer. And I believe that Jeff Capel can get it done. I believe he will get it done, but people have to have patience. This isn't you're not dealing with Kentucky, Louisville, programs like that. So I think that was a pretty informed. I didn't even realize that 7 years it took him to make the tournament at Florida State.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that either, and that is a wow factor just for the fact that almost no program today would probably not have fired that man at some point earlier. Granted, maybe they let him go because that was a football school, and prior to him getting there, they were building it up from the dust. There was nothing there at Florida State basketball, so they gave him time. It does show you, too, in college sports, in football or basketball, these coaches get such a quick 2 or 3 year stretch, and then they're fired no matter where they are, where the expectations are, how good the program's been before. If the program would stay the course and give some time, you can have that paid off. Sometimes you're better off keeping your guy. I know we've talked about this a lot with Narduzzi. If you don't think you can get a better guy, then what are you doing? It's the same thing that after WVU got eliminated, there were some fans out there actually saying that Huggins is the most overrated coach in the country. I'm saying after he's gone, you're not getting anyone with a better career resume. My Lord, overrated. He's not a blue blood, and look what he's done. I could argue underrated. So you gotta appreciate what's there, and the fruits of labor certainly have paid off for Florida State, who I actually had in my Final Four, but that probably jinxed things for them. But we will see. Yeah, a lot of questions still around the Pitt program. Champagnie, there's no reason to freak out right now. And as Alan Saunders told me actually when he filled in for you, there's not as much reason for Pitt fans to freak out in general, because one thing Jeff Capel's proven he can do is recruit with anybody. So he will fill those spots, and he'll still do it even without Champagnie, but that's a major question mark out there. But just because he's testing the waters, there's no reason yet to jump off the Clemente Bridge or do anything out there in Oakland or protest outside the formerly O down there in Oakland on the campus. But that'll do it for this show. Stick with us throughout all of our sites. Stick with us throughout the rest of the week for this content, as you never know what's going to happen. You never know when a player is going to get bored, tweet something, and then change the news wire, because I will tell you, like it or not, without Steven Nelson's tweet, we're not leading off the show with this. They would have kept him a little bit longer. Yeah, he did force his way out on a tweet, so that was positive there. Yeah, we're trying to figure out new topics every day, so he helped us out a little bit as well. That does it for this one. For Mike Vukovcan, I'm Mike Asti for PSL and PSN. And for Martin Lawn Services there, hit up Doug Martin at 412-849-5894. Enjoy the rest of your day, and keep tabs on social media, because, again, you never know.